But speaking of that state of Texas, that was not the only shocker in terms of teams that were actually playing in the state of Texas. So one of the rules, something that my mama always told me when I was just a kid growing up is you don't play with your food. Food is supposed to provide substance for your body, so that you can be a big, strong, healthy young man, right? So it's a golden rule to my mama. It really is. And you know what happened in the American Conference? Would y'all like to know what happened? Tulsa forgot about that rule that my mama told me. Tulsa played with food. You know why Tulsa played with food? Because Tulsa was playing Rice. And Tulsa, they were favored against Rice. But nobody told Rice that. I can tell you that right now. Rice beat Tulsa. But that's not the most shocking part. Rice dominated Tulsa. Imagine being a favorite at home and then proceed to get blown out at home. Who would have thought? And that's what makes college football so crazy. That, when you're, listen, the transfer portal, NIL, and the extra year that was created because of the COVID season that we had. We do have some players that are starting in their mid-20s, like upwards of like 25, 26 years old, that are still playing college football. But the majority of this sport of college football is played by 18 to 22 years olds. That is 90 to 95% of college athletes at the Division I level. And they're still young men that are trying to, learn and grow and develop, not only as football players, but as men. And sometimes when you have young people are going to be a little bit more, not less consistent, but they're going to be, there's more volatility. And this is a classic case of that. Rice beats Tulsa 42-10. This was a game where the model actually did think that Tulsa was going to cover, not by more than one score, but, there was some confidence in that Tulsa was going to cover. The model was completely wrong here. Sometimes I like to say that, sometimes, other people get into the way of our correct predictions, our sound judgment. This was not the case here. The model and I were wrong about this Rice and Tulsa game. Rice wins 42-10. And Rice silently putting themselves in a position where maybe they can compete for an American Conference Championship game. Possibly in their first year in the American Athletic Conference. Rice is right up in there. And the way that Rice schedule is shaping up, 3 of their last 5 games are all against teams that are currently undefeated. There's a freeway tie for first place right now. Tulane, SMU, and UTSA. Rice plays all 3 of them. So if Rice finds a way to win at least 2 of these next 3 games, Rice could mess around and go to the American Athletic Championship game in their first year of the conference. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk it, Absolutely crazy times that we're living in right now. Going to the game specifically, though. You guys remember JT Daniels, former quarterback of USC and Georgia, and in his last season was the quarterback for West Virginia? He's here. JT Daniels is at his 4th stop. He's in his 6th year of college football. And he's quietly putting together an excellent season at the group of 5 level. He's now thrown for over 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Might I add, also has Rice playing pretty well, winning 4 of their last 6 games ever since that loss to Texas as well. And I mean, Rice, and it's not just JT Daniels specifically. I mean, JT Daniels, he had a good game, threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown as well, but he's got some help. This is a solid group of 5 team. Dean Connors, for example, is on the squad. He runs all over Tulsa, 120 and 3 touchdowns on the ground. The defense gets off to an extremely fast start as well. And Tulsa has a somewhat dangerous offense themselves. So it was a huge surprise to see Tulsa shut down like this, especially in the second half. They could not figure out anything in the second half. The Tulsa Golden Hurricanes at home were shut out completely in the second half. But there was certainly some keys in this game. Rice, even though they went 3 and out on the opening drive, one of their defenders, Gabriel Taylor, was able to intercept Braylon Braxton, who Braylon Braxton is going to have a bright future. We're high on Braylon Braxton for sure. But he didn't look very good in this game. He got intercepted the very first pass. Rice was able to use that to get into the end zone, took advantage of the short field, the somewhat short field, I should say. And after that, it was just off to the races, man. Completely off to the races here. After that interception, I mean, Rice just never looked back. Not the only turnover that the Rice defense was able to force, by the way. Jabraylon Carroll was able to recover a fumble as well. Also getting a turnover off Braxton. It was a bad day for Braylon Braxton. He was straight up not having a good time. Turned into a short field. And before you know it, Rice was already up 14-0. The food was fighting back. Not to mention, we also have Keenan Benjamin catching a 30-yard touchdown. Well, actually, that's one of the bright spots for Tulsa. Yeah, it was a good win for Rice. We're really excited about the Rice Owls. And we talked about Rice's schedule. So what happens with Rice? We'll talk about winners first. Like I said, they put themselves in a good position to at least be in that dark horse conversation in terms of being competitive in the American Conference, trying to sneak their way into the American Conference Championship. They'll have an opportunity to play against the best. They have Tulane at home. Tulane, one of the best group of 5 teams in the country, 6-1. I actually think Tulane probably should be ranked higher than number 22 in the country because the only loss that they had was to Ole Miss, and that was when Michael Pratt wasn't playing. Michael Pratt is now playing, and he has their offense playing at a high level. Should be a high-scoring game next weekend. That's a 4:00 kickoff on ESPN2. If one of the top 25 matchups, either like Oregon, Utah, or Duke and Louisville, one of those 2 games like gets completely out of hand, and you care about American Conference football, definitely keep an eye on this one. That could have some implications. They also have SMU at home right after, and then they have UTSA. They go on the road to play against UTSA. It's a former Conference USA matchup, now an American Conference matchup, and then they close out their season against other former Conference USA opponents, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic. It's a very navigable schedule in the sense where I could certainly see Rice qualify for a bowl, get the 6 wins at the very least. I think they would be favored against Charlotte for sure. Charlotte has been difficult to watch, to be nice. And then that home game against Florida Atlantic, with them being at home, I can also see Rice being slightly favored, depending on what happens towards the end of the season here. And because of that, Rice could get to a bowl game. And, I mean, that'd be a good season for Rice, being represented in bowl season with a number of bowl games out there. As long as you get the 6 wins, you're going to be fine. You're going to be A-okay. So, Rice in a good spot to get to a bowl game. Now for Tulsa. Tulsa, on the other hand, they're now under 500, 3-4. And that schedule is not going to get easier. They do have 2 road games over the course of the next 3 weeks. They go play SMU on the road. They're on a 2-game losing streak, too. They do have a home game against Charlotte, but then they have a road game against Tulane. For Tulsa, they got to find a way to win 3 games. So, presuming SMU and Tulane are going to be chalked up as losses. You got to beat Charlotte, you got to beat North Texas, and you got to beat Eastern Carolina in order for Tulsa to go bowling. Certainly possible. I think they are capable of doing it. Eastern Carolina, really rough to watch, to say the least, but certainly doable. Both of these teams are still more than capable of making it to a bowl game. Rice in a better spot. We'll see what Rice does in these next 3 weeks here as they navigate the hardest part of their conference schedule. And if they can win at least 2 of their next 3 games, or shoot, maybe they win all 3 games. Maybe they somehow beat Tulane, beat SMU, beat UTSA. Then all of a sudden, Rice could be a virtual lock to get into the conference championship, because then they would have tiebreakers over all those 3 teams. And they were also able to avoid Memphis too. So keep an eye on Rice. You certainly is not team to play with your food with. Maybe not the best team in the American, but they'll certainly be able to prove that on the field in the next few weeks, seeing as they will be playing against the best of the American over the course of these next few weekends.